Hello everyone, and I never thought I would make this video, but Man of War Corsair has been brought back from the dead on Steam. This was a game which I really much enjoyed. I did a couple of streams on and even some videos too. Based on the Warhammer fantasy setting, it had that Tale Worlds kind of feeling, but based on naval battles. The game never really had much direction, but I think that's why a lot of people liked it. There was just so much that you could do to make up your own story. Now, this was taken off Steam originally a few years back because Games Workshop actually retracted the license. It's something that is fairly rare but still happens. No reason why was given out, but I can assume it's because the developer then switched to another title. He was working on multiple games, releasing essentially the same game multiple times, but on different settings, which meant that, yeah, Man of War Corsair was not getting the content updates that it really needed to become the gem that it could have been. So in today's video, we're going to talk about it with the early aspect of the title and see if it's right for you and get a little nostalgic, to be honest. So when you start your game, you're going to have to play through a tutorial, which is kind of annoying because I've played this game a lot, but apparently it doesn't remember that. Maybe because it's a fresh install on a new computer, but you've got access to a few factions that you can play a campaign with. At the beginning, it's just like the Independents, and then you can work on Bretonnia, the Empire, and there's also Chaos. There's not a lot of structure when creating your character in terms of outfit or anything else, and you've got the 3 difficulty modes: easy, regular, and hard. You can easily do the tutorial within, say, 20 minutes, maybe even faster, and then quit it and start a campaign fully if you want to play one of the Chaos factions. But the Chaos factions don't have full-on campaigns. This is really just a majority sandbox. But there's a lot to this game, especially if you just like making things up as you go along. So you'll start off with a fairly decent tutorial that will teach you the basics. This is literally picking up quests, going out, doing some missions, and just general combat. Now this plays like a PlayStation 2 title, so don't expect amazing combat at that. However, when it comes to ship-on-ship combat, it's pretty good. It's just like the melee aspect is very much like Bannerlord, if not worse. I mean, melee combat is literally just left and right click. There's no real much direction to it. And range combat, yeah, it can be a little bit janky and slow depending on what you're using, but there are loads of different weapon options, which does help, and you're fighting loads of enemies. So while you can only really play a campaign as a human or a Chaos Warrior, which all have unique ships, by the way, we'll get to that a little bit later, they've added in a bunch of races. There's High Elves, Dark Elves, there's Skaven, hell, there's even sea monsters from Man of War, because this game, while based on Warhammer Fantasy, is mostly based on the Man of War game from way back in the day, which lasted very little. There are loads of playable factions on custom battles only, each of them with unique ships to focus around their specific playstyle, meaning that if you're going to be playing as, say, for example, the Chaos factions, even in campaign, your Slaanesh ships will be vastly different to that of the Tzeentch ones. The Tzeentch ones will, of course, have like the Bale Tower, whilst the Slaanesh will have more like the moving pleasure palaces. We've seen certain artwork of that in the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay sector. Stuff like that is amazing. It's a shame that all of this wasn't fully translated onto the campaign, being able to play as a Skaven. There are so many things that could have been done here, and I feel like this game, like no joke, could have been as popular as Total War. Scratching that itch for naval battles, especially in a setting where you're controlling the ship yourself and you've got armies, or better yet said, an armada of NPCs following you around. The possibilities were frankly endless, and it had so much potential. When you start off with a Chaos faction, for example, you'll start off with a few ships because there's no place for you to really realistically dock, but you start off with some very unique looking ships for Slaanesh, as you can see on screen, and there's a lot there. You can hire crew, buy more ships. The map is absolutely ginormous, and we'll talk about that in 1 second, but the idea is there is so much that you could do in game with just buying crew, upgrading them, changing their equipment, getting extra ships. You have to pay for your crew also, keep that in mind. Not everything had unique models, and in some cases a lot of stuff were reused, like for example the Spawn were just tinted in different colors, just like Total War. But if you had a little bit of imagination, you could create your own campaign and kind of live off your dreams of sailing the Warhammer seas. as dangerous as they are. And there were definitely seas to travel. You could go basically from part of Kislev, traverse through the Empire, go through Bretonnia, and then into the Southern Realms. There is so much in terms of like docks and stuff, which is why it's like a lot of people thought this game would be absolutely massive, because the potential was there and you could travel so far. The problem is there wasn't really that much to do unless you were kind of making it up as you go along. So from Erengrad all the way to Talia, that's a lot of distance with a lot of threats. The benefit of this title is that it's incredibly open. You can start off as an independent, start going into questing for Kislev and then turn on the Empire. Or you could just go full on pirate if you so wished and just stayed there allied up with Sartosa, because yes, there was like a villain feature there. You could get fame and infamy, which you could build up and kind of work around if that's something that was of interest. Change your campaign as you kind of went through it. The possibilities were endless in the same way as, say, for example, Bannerlord, but with its own unique style of play, which I don't think Bannerlord's main quest is like fully being completed just yet, actually. I would say combat is this game's strong suit. The idea of being able to form up an armada and just fight with loads of other ships, the docking wasn't too bad, the fact that so many ships were quite unique too. It's a shame that it didn't evolve to allow for a Skaven campaign or anything else really. There would have been such a cool aspect about using a Black Ark, which by the way you can in custom battles. But imagine the roleplay aspect of having a Skaven campaign or a Dark Elf campaign and being an absolute terror. You can do that with the Chaos Warriors, but I feel like having something that could have had some sort of base of operations could have been very, very useful. I would say that this game is fun, and if it's something that you want to try out, I mean, it's right now 25% off on Steam. This is finally back there, which by the way, if you buy the game, you'll get the DLCs that were originally launched for it, because yes, this was going to turn into a DLC farm, it feels like, which thankfully didn't. It's also on Good Old Games. I've seen people argue, it's like, well, why is this on Steam when it's on Good Old Games? The idea was they want it everywhere. Games Workshop are likely, because they're bringing back a lot of classics, they're likely just trying to get the Warhammer name publicly out there just to get more title sales, which does make sense. A lot of classic games just came back with the Warhammer Classics collection, which, yeah, I mean, Mark of Chaos, amazing. We'll probably have a video talking about that soon. Dark Omen, Shadow of the Horned Rat. Not counting the 40k ones, a lot of them like Fire Warrior, the original Blood Bowl, Chaos Gate, the classic version. It's weird to see these games coming back, but they do make sense, and it does make sense that Games Workshop does want to have them generating some sort of profit, because a lot of these are already paid for long in advance. And Games Workshop takes a fairly hefty cut from what I've been hearing. Well, at this point, they probably take most of it, barring the fact that there's random publisher now. I'm not sure what this is, I guess. Well, they did update them. A lot of them are now playable on more modern machines, which is great because, yeah, Shadow of the Horned Rat and the rest weren't really working too well. You had to do quite a lot of shenanigans. It's definitely good to see classics make a return. I think a lot of people will take advantage of that. Mark of Chaos is another one that is just phenomenal. And if you like the old world setting, that's going to be useful for you to get used to the lore. Even if it's after, there's a lot of context there. This, again, I look at this game, I look at Man of War Corsair, and I think there could have been so much more to this title. It's a massive shame it was killed off too early, but its updates were glacially slow, which is disappointing because a lot of its roadmap was slowly being progressed through it. Trading was already coming in, even if it's just for the player, not automatic. The fact that it also had automatic movement was good. The campaign was pretty barren, but the fact that you had loads of quests and some of them even had custom events, so you know, there was a plague city and you could end up getting plagued by zombies on your ship. That stuff is all really cool. I'd say time-wise it's worth picking it up if you want the same feeling as like a Tale Worlds game, where it's going to be kind of empty but allows you to just play around. 25% off is a pretty good discount, and yeah, this is a decent game. I know that sounds weird to say, because it's pretty empty, but I've had a lot of fun with it. Welcome back, Man of War Corsair. It's great to see you. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I've hopefully shown off enough clip of the combat. It's still very early campaign. Again, I had to make a new save, which is just frustrating, because I had an old save, I remember it very clearly with a lot of ships and a lot of like bigger style ships for not only myself, but also my armada. But hey, such is life. Maybe I'll do a stream campaign of this at some point because I really did like this. And I feel like that could be kind of fun. But yeah, have a great day, everyone. I'll see you all again very, very soon.